talk about intuition, right? That little gut feeling we get. But what if I told you that the source we're digging into today says that what most of us call intuition, well, it isn't really intuition at all. Yeah, it's a bold claim, so let's get into it. So let me ask you, that gut feeling, that sudden flash of insight you get, is that really intuition? According to the material we're looking at today, the answer is probably no. It suggests that we're often just mixing up our own emotions and our own intellectual ideas with something way, way deeper. And this is the first big hurdle we have to get over, this idea of mistaking the messenger. See, we're getting all these signals from inside ourselves all the time, and learning to tell them apart is absolutely crucial. And here's where the difference becomes crystal clear. On one side, you've got what we normally call intuition, gut feelings, those aha moments. But the definition we're exploring today is totally different. It's described as a selfless, compelling urge. It's not some passive feeling. It's a powerful, active call to do something. Okay, so let's get super specific. What in the world is this selfless urge that our source says is the real deal, true intuition? Here it is, plain and simple. Intuition is a sudden, totally unplanned burst of energy. An urge that basically grabs the steering wheel and pushes us to do something for someone else, something that has zero obvious benefit for ourselves. And those key words are everything here: sudden, unpremeditated, and completely selfless. Let's really break this down. This urge just hits you out of the blue. It's never about you. But here's the real kicker, and this is so important. It's almost always immediately followed by your rational brain and your emotions jumping in, screaming all the reasons why you shouldn't do it. It's too risky. It doesn't make sense. What will people think? That's the battle. To really get our heads around this, let's look at this principle in action. The source gives us 3 really powerful and pretty surprising examples of this exact kind of intuition. First up, we're going with a classic story that you almost certainly know: the Good Samaritan. The real magic of this story is that inner conflict. The Samaritan's urge was to help a man who was, for all intents and purposes, his enemy. You can just imagine his rational brain and his ingrained biases yelling, "No way, he's one of them. Just keep walking." But that pure, selfless, intuitive urge to help another being in pain, it won. All right, next, let's do a complete 180 and jump from the spiritual to the world of science with, you guessed it, Albert Einstein. Now, this is just fascinating, isn't it? Einstein himself talked about a sudden flash he had about relativity. But think about it. His own brilliant, intellectual mind, trained in classical physics, would have argued against it, and his emotions, probably terrified that chasing such a wild idea could completely tank his career. But he followed it anyway, because of a selfless dedication to finding the truth. And for our final example, we're going into the realm of politics and raw power, with the Roman Emperor Constantine I. I mean, just try to imagine the massive political risk he was taking. This move was not for personal gain. It was a gigantic gamble that could have cost him everything. Yet, he followed this inner urge, maybe sensing that it would have this positive, uplifting effect on his whole society. It was a selfless act, just on an epic scale. So what's the thread that ties all these stories together? It's that inner battle, that conflict, that sparks to life the second a true intuitive urge shows up. And this is what that conflict looks like. On one side, you've got this pure, selfless, creative urge that's all about helping others. And on the other side, you've got the loud, panicked voices of your intellect and your emotions, shouting about risk, logic, self-preservation, and of course, what will everyone else think? This is the moment of truth. This is the crossroads where you either follow that intuition or you let it fade away. So if this battle is pretty much guaranteed to happen, how do we get better at choosing the right side? Well, the source argues that the path to even recognizing true intuition begins with one specific quality: humility. It's not about being smarter. It's not about being more emotionally sensitive. According to the source, the real key is just having a genuine desire for what is true and what is right, without any thought for what's in it for me. It's this humility that finally quiets down all that internal noise, all those objections, and lets that quiet, intuitive voice actually be heard. This table really helps clarify things. You have the guru type, who's all about intellect, and they're striving for authority and admiration, and they look impressive, right? Then you've got the saintly type, guided by emotion, trying to appear pious so others admire them. But then there's the truly spiritual person,
the one guided by intuition. Their guiding force is humility, and because of that, they're often not very noticeable at all. Their selfless actions speak for them, not their appearance.
Okay, so this brings us to the big question, maybe the most important one. Why does any of this matter? What's the end game here? What is the whole point of following these selfless, intuitive urges? Well, the source lays out a pretty clear path. Every single time an intuitive urge pops up, and you manage to push past that internal resistance and actually act on it, you make that connection stronger. It's like building a muscle. You keep doing it over and over, and gradually you become what the source calls spiritually alive. And what does that even feel like? Well, the source gets pretty poetic about it, describing it as radiant light, dazzling purity, a blissful feeling of lightness. It talks about being lifted up to more luminous regions. It's describing a state of being that's just on a completely different level from our day-to-day thoughts and feelings. Which brings us right to our final thought for you to take away. As you go about your week, just think about this. What selfless urge, big or small, have you felt recently and then talked yourself out of? And what do you think might have happened if you had just listened?